This episode is an early release of my show airing this Sunday, which you can find on Preach Word Network. Check the description box for details.
So that is the ability of what adverse situations and pressure can put upon you, provided that you are willing to endure it and not crack under the pressure. You can come out like a beautiful jewel and a diamond in the end.
Every day is the day that it's time to make a change from the things that aren't serving your life. Just try to walk away, take the power from the pain and keep praying for the day. Come on and talk about it.
I know that things are hard. I know that life can get hard, but trust me, like if you are able to get through it, everything turns out fine in the end.
Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Relatable Christian. I am your host, Dr. Sophia Reed, and welcome back. Or if you're new here, then hey, welcome for the first time. So what we're going to be talking about in today's episode is how to glory in your suffering. I know it seems like a oxymoron. Why would I want to glory in my suffering? Why would I want to be happy? What is the point of suffering? This is not fun for me. I'm confused. God, what we doing here? What we doing here? But as a Christian, despite popular belief, it is never God's promise that we will endure suffering. It is that we are glorying through our suffering, and that through our suffering brings some type of abundance, lesson, some type of good stuff for us. And even though it might not seem like that makes logical sense, because once you understand the point of your suffering and how you can glory through it, and that it is actually for your own good, and it is not God's intent to have you stay in the point of suffering, but to bring glorification to you through your suffering, it can be a lot easier to endure. And even as I understood this lesson, I'm going to be quite honest with you, suffering still kind of gets to me a bit, but I have to constantly remind myself of this lesson. So we're going to go first into Romans 5:3-5, I'm going to start from the bottom of 2 because we need to understand this first. So let us rejoice our hope and confidence, assurance of experiencing and enjoying the glory, our great God, and the manifestation of his excellence and power. Sounds great. And then we go to verse 3, and not only this, remember everything that I just said, but with joy, let us exult in our suffering and rejoice in our hardships, knowing that hardships, distress, pressure, trouble produces patient endurance. And endurance, proving character, spiritual maturity, and proving character, hope and confidence, assurance of eternal salvation. Such hope in God's promises never disappoints us because God's love has been abundantly poured out within our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has given it to us. That sounds so backwards. Okay, you want me to be happy and have joy in my suffering, but don't pay attention to that, because this is what gives you maturity. This is what gives you hope and confidence, and this is what makes you a better person. So as somebody who is in the mental health field, let's go there for a second, because we have this word called resiliency. What is resiliency? Resiliency is known as the ability to get stronger in the face of, or the ability to be strong, the ability to withstand anything. For resiliency to be present, you must endure a hard situation. So the ability to positively overcome struggle or adverse situations produces more resiliency. The Bible tells us in a more spiritual manner, but there's an actual scientific term for this. So it's better for us to go to an example in the Bible in which God specifically gives us an example on how to behave during our suffering, how to joyfully endure our hardships and suffering. And then the key word that I want you to remember is that because God's love has been abundantly poured out within our hearts. So even you can experience some type of abundance even in the midst of suffering. And therefore, I have to show you an example of that, because you have to think of it like this way. What is a diamond? A diamond was once a lump of coal that we barbecue with. I mean, it's like we don't really think much of lumps of coal, but through pressure, through a long time. Not saying you got to suffer for a long time, but over a long amount of time of pressure and heat, out becomes this beautiful thing. It is no longer this lump of coal that is very common, that everybody can use, that people just put on a barbecue. This becomes a sought after diamond. So that is the ability of what adverse situations and pressure can put upon you, provided that you are willing to endure it and not crack under the pressure. You can come out like a beautiful jewel and a diamond in the end, something that is precious to God, something that is sought after, something that is rare, and something that is shining bright, that is not easily to attain or to come by, and that is the whole purpose. So I actually want to get into a Bible verse, and so we're going to go to Joseph.
Don't go anywhere. The Relatable Christian will be right back after this short commercial break. So stay tuned. Real queens don't fear, and we don't bow down. She has worked too hard. She has come too far. She is sitting too high. She is reaching for the sky. So they can never take her crown. They are still stuck on the ground. Why her head is up high, making her father proud. Original poem by Sophie-sticated. Do you not know that you are a queen because you are a daughter of the Most High God, the King of Kings? And do you not know that you should not ever fear at what life has to throw your way? Because God loves you, and fear is not perfected in love. 1 John 4:18. And that is what this sterling silver necklace represents, in gold, rose gold, and silver, for only $40, to remind you of who you are.
I'm definitely going to point out some certain things about Joseph. I'm not going to read the entire story of Joseph because we will be here all night. But there are some certain things that I want to point out. First, that Joseph was sold into slavery because specifically his brothers was jealous of him and therefore they sold him into slavery. What is slavery? That is the suffering. That is the hardship. But where did Joseph land? So we're going to pick up from Genesis chapter 39. And so Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an Egyptian officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the royal guard, brought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. But the Lord was with Joseph, and even though he was a slave, he became successful and prosperous. He was in the house of the master of the Egyptians. So there is certain things that I want to point out here. He was in a bad situation. He was a slave. Ideally, don't nobody want to be a slave, but in the midst of the suffering, because God was with him, the abundance still poured out onto Joseph, and he became successful and prosperous. Now, as we get on through the story of Joseph, we should know that that was not the height of Joseph's prosperity, because ultimately he became more powerful than that. That is why, it's important to never get comfortable in settling and being subpar, but doing good where you're at. No, you might not want to be a slave. Joseph didn't want to be a slave. No, you might not want to be at the bottom of the food chain at your office. Yes, you might want to be yes, you might want to get a promotion. Yes, you might want to make more money. Yes, you might want more. But in the position that you are at, even though it is causing you hardship, and even though it is not ideal, and it may even be causing you suffering, you still should be doing a good job and performing well, because even as a slave, because Joseph did not succumb to him being a slave and just did not become all rebellious and was doing the absolute most, he still did a good job where he was at. And because of that, God still prospered him to the capacity that he could in the slave position. So now the master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord caused all that he did to prosper and succeed at his hand. So we don't exactly know what the prosperity may have been, because he's a slave. I mean, I'm sure he just don't have money running over. And whatever capacity that you can prosper as a slave, that is what he was doing. But that's why it's important to also be thankful for the things that God has given you in that particular moment, and not necessarily know or try to figure out what prosperity, quote unquote, looks like. It can be many different forms, but as long as God is with you and he is allowing you to handle the situation with grace and showing you what to do and giving you some form of elevation in that. You can't necessarily say, oh, I'm in this hardship, I want God to deliver me $100,000. Yeah, God might not be delivering you $100,000, but your bills might be paid for. You might still be okay in that process, and understand that where you are at now is still not your ultimate thing. You're not going to be there forever. He just wants you to be thankful and also endure during that process and to build the character. Because what happened? Then for a time his master's wife looked at Joseph with desire, and she said to him, lie with me. But Joseph said no, because he was a person of good character. Yeah, it might have been easy to lie with the master's wife. It might have fed his lust. Maybe she might have given him some extra stuff, but he still chose to maintain his character as a slave. He still maintained his scruples. And guess what? It landed him in jail. Right? It wasn't even like, oh, God was with Joseph as a slave and everything was great. Yeah, it was kind of sort of great. He was still a slave and he was prospering where he was. But the caveat to that is, even when he gloried in his suffering, things actually got worse for him. So when you go down to
Time for another commercial break. We'll be right back.
God did not give me a spirit of fear. He does not want me to be ashamed of who I am or insecure. I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and from here on out, that is exactly how I will behave. Hi, my name is Dr. Sophia Reed, and I am the creator of the Christian lifestyle blog, Sophie-sticatedmom.com, and that was just one of 29 affirmations from my guide, Fix It Jesus, the Ultimate Christian Manifestation Guide, where each affirmation is backed up with an actual Bible verse that validates the affirmation. That way you know that the affirmation is actually biblical. Affirmations are in the area of faith, hardship, relationships, prosperity, and self-esteem. Learn to stop self-defeating thoughts that are blocking you from your blessing, and learn to speak things into existence. This guide will show you how to do that. For only $10, it can be yours.
When you go down to verse 17, the wife told her husband the same story, saying, the Hebrew servant whom you brought among us came to mock and insult me. Then as soon as I raised my voice and screamed, he led his robe to me and he ran outside. When Joseph's master heard the words of the wife, he said, this is the way your servant has treated me. His anger burned. So if we back up, we knew that the master knew Joseph's character and that he was a man of God. But Joseph refused to lie with his wife because, he wasn't just doing that. And the wife took a piece of Joseph's robe and claimed it as for herself. When he ran from her, she grabbed it and ripped it. And she said, oh, he raped me. This is my proof. But even the master took him to the prison, in a place where the king's prisoners was held. So understand that things is not fair. Even though people might see that you are a good worker, that you have a good character, or that you are deserving of more money, sometimes the company is not going to give you that. And that's why it is important that we don't necessarily look for man for our rewards, but our whole thing is to glory in our sufferings or whatever it is that we're going through. If people treat us fair, great. If they don't, then ultimately that is their issue, and God is going to deal with them whenever God is going to deal with them. And even if he doesn't, it still isn't your problem. Your problem is to endure the test, because regardless of whatever, it wasn't fair that Joseph got sold into slavery. It was not fair that he got accused of rape. It was not fair that now he had a lower position because, he was he had a great position before he was a slave, and now he became a slave, and now he's a prisoner. So more restrictions have gotten taken upon him, but yet and still Joseph still gloried in his hardship and his suffering, right? So what it specifically said after prison in verse 21, we're still in chapter 39, but the Lord was with Joseph and extended kindness to him and gave him favor in the sight of the warden. The warden committed to Joseph's care management all of the prisoners who were in the prison, so that whatever was done, he was in charge of. So the reason why the warden probably felt comfortable doing this is because Joseph was probably a trustworthy prisoner. It's not like Joseph was running amok, and because God showed favor upon him, he convinced the warden. No, he still showed some type of faithfulness to God, or he did show faithfulness to God, and he also showed faithfulness in his position. Was it fair that he was there? No, because life is not fair. But he still did not go off the freaking chain and start doing the absolute most. He was still diligent and faithful and trusting that somehow, some way, or maybe he didn't even know that somehow, some way, anything was going to work out, but it didn't matter. That is him still glorying in his suffering. And because he did that, because all of this was a test from God, and to also move him into the position that he was meant to be in, he still did not get down about his situation. And therefore the warden paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's care, because the Lord was with him. Whatever Joseph did, the Lord made to prosper. So understand, once again, in jail, it's not like Joseph was getting a paycheck. He prospered in whatever capacity that he could as a prisoner. And this is also understanding that when you glory in your suffering, and you talk about, oh, but isn't God's abundant blessing supposed to be, pouring out on me? Aren't I supposed to have money? Aren't I supposed to have this? I want some new shoes. I want to be dressed. I want a new outfit. I want to do this. I want to do that. Okay, but prosperity can come in many different types of ways. There's a possibility that in this case, the warden wasn't up Joseph's butt all day, nagging him and watching over him. It was a little bit more freedom. Maybe that was the prosperousness that he could have in that particular situation. No, it was not the most abundant and wonderful thing humanly possible. Of course not. But it was the best that he could do in that situation, and yet and still God was with him. And so ultimately, throughout this process of Joseph working in the prison and being in prison, two men came, and he interpreted the dreams for two of the men, right? Joseph told one man that he was going to die. That sucks. And then he told the other man that you're going to be restored into Pharaoh's good graces, but when you go back, can you remember me? But everything that Joseph said did happen. But when Pharaoh would restore the chief cupbearer, it says in verse 23, yet even after all of that, the chief's cupbearer did not remember Joseph and forgot all about him. So this is still the idea that we have to understand that, our relief in the middle of our hardship does not come from the world, and it does not come from man, because if you look for that, then you might be disappointed. There was nothing wrong with Joseph specifically asking for the cupbearer to remember him, because anybody is going to shoot their shot and be like, hey, can you remember me? Blah, blah, blah. But when it didn't happen, it is what it is, because ultimately, if God is with you, he is going to be with you. So it's like, if you're experiencing a hardship and you want to complain about what isn't happening for you, what other people are not doing for you, what other people said they were going to do, but now they're not doing it, and all this, that, and the third, then you understand that you have this whole thing wrong. Because in the beginning, what did it specifically say? It did not say, it says we glory in our suffering because we know God. It didn't say, oh, because we know that this person gonna come off the street and hand us some dollars, or we know this person gonna give us a promotion whenever we deserve it, or we know that we always gonna be happy, or we always know that if we continuously do good, we're gonna be recognized or rewarded for our efforts. Sometimes that don't happen, because people sometimes don't want to do that, but they don't have to. They don't have to. Your blessings is not contingent upon what they will and won't do. And sometimes God might intentionally set that up for the simple fact that he wants to see, are you still going to be faithful and glory in your suffering anyway? So if we move down to chapter 41, now it happened at the end of 2 full years, and this was after the cupbearer had forgotten about him. 2 years Joseph was still sitting in jail, that Pharaoh had a dream. And then even after that, Pharaoh was calling a whole bunch of people to try to interpret the dream. It didn't happen. And then randomly, the chief Pharaoh was like, oh yeah, I know somebody who can help you with this. So it all worked out in the end, but notice that Joseph was still suffering for that 2 years. Do I want your suffering to be that long? Because I know what you're trying to say. No. But understand that if you are being diligent and you're not getting all down and out about what is happening to you, but you are doing what you're supposed to do, and you're trying to remain positive in good spirits and faithful to God, God will still provide for you and bring provisions and give you some form of prosperity. Understand that might not always be money, in whatever capacity he can, and you just have to trust that that is the best thing, and trust that that's what God is doing for the moment, and trust that if you're doing the right thing, that the elevation will come. Because guess what? It did. It really did. And so it's like literally overnight, Joseph was sitting up in a cell in prison, right? And imagine the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, call upon you. You're like, I'm sorry, what? And so at this point, Joseph got to shave his face, because at this point, they were like, oh, you're going to go see the king. And all of a sudden, it's like he got it. Then Pharaoh sent and called out for Joseph. And this is in verse 14 in chapter 41. And they hurriedly brought about him to the dungeon where Joseph shaved himself, changed his clothes, making himself presentable. So he was looking a hot mess, probably ain't had no bath, probably ain't shaved during all this specific time. He was just whatever. So in a matter of days, not only was he given new clothes, he was given the ability to shave. He was given the opportunity to showcase his gifts, the one that he has been using all of this time, the one that was hidden behind closed doors, that he was like, dang, I really want to showcase what I can do. You might be in a situation where, yeah, I'm really working hard towards this goal. I really want to do this. I really want more. I really want a promotion. I really want to be a supervisor. I really want to start my own business. I really want to do this, but I can't because I feel stifled. But just like that, an opportunity came through and everything changed. Because as soon as he interpreted Pharaoh's dream, guess what happened?
Be right back after this last commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Are you tired of being stuck in the same place day after day, month after month, year after year, and you just don't know how to make your life better, level up your life, or glow up your life? Do you want to write a book, start a business, or you just don't know how to take the next steps? Hi, I am Dr. Sophia Reed, and I know what that's like. Just like it says in Philippians 4:12, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. And I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. Despite popular belief, God does want you to have the life that you desire. But the secret to that is to also have contentment and to know that to whom much is given, much is required. If you join my Patreon for only $5 a month, I give self-improvement tips on how to level up your life, how to help you reach goals, how to start an online business, how to write a book. Whatever goals you have for yourself, I can definitely help you get there. So, join today.
If you go to chapter 41 and verse 40, all of a sudden, 39 first. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since your God has shown you all of this, notice God has shown him all of this, not everybody. So if you're waiting for somebody to come rescue you from your hardship, you're waiting for the wrong person, because God is the one that's going to do it. There is no one as discerning and clear-headed, as wise as you are. All of a sudden, Joseph's gifts were recognized. You shall have charge over my house and all of my people, and govern according to you, your word, pay respect to you with reverence, submission, and obedience. Only in matters in the throne, which is I'm a figurehead, will I be greater than you in Egypt. Then Pharaoh said, see, I have set you in charge over all of the land in Egypt. So I'm sorry. So he was just a prisoner. And before that, he was a slave. So all of them people, the warden, all of Potiphar and his wife, now all of a sudden he is their boss. He did not need Potiphar as a slave to continue to promote him as a slave charge of the household. God was like, nah, we done with that. Yeah, you're not going to like going to prison, but there's a plan. Glory in your suffering. Then we was in prison. Yeah, I know you're not going to like being in prison because you feel like you don't belong here. You didn't do anything wrong, but glory in your suffering, because now I'm going to send these two people who ultimately can help you out, and overnight your suffering has shifted into ultimate prosperity. And so even through this, not only did he become over the land of Egypt, he got a wife, he got some kids, he got all of these different things and blessings simply because he was faithful the whole time. God prospered him in each position the whole time. So it wasn't like, yes, I'm suffering, but God still showed a way out. He showed provisions in whatever capacity that was in the position that he was. He didn't get disappointed by the cupbearer not helping him out like he said he was supposed to, and pitching a fit with God and all this other type of stuff. He knew deliverance was going to come from somewhere. But understand that by the time the end of all of this came about, because his character was so refined, it's like he forgave his brothers. He was like, oh, God sent me before you in order to help me and help you out during this famine, because that's what it was, a famine, and that's what Joseph helped prevent it. And so it's like through all these situations, all of a sudden his heart was softened and he had no more animosity because of everything that he had been through. He was a lump of coal. I mean, And the only reason why I say that is because if you go to the beginning of the story, Joseph was telling people their dreams, even though he saw that it bothered his father and his brothers. It's like they was getting madder and madder and jealous every time he told them a dream. It's like, Joseph, stop talking. So it's like all of a sudden he gained some wisdom, he gained some insight, and it also improved his character, and all of a sudden he had no malice or ill intent, and he just wanted to be, a big happy family again. So it's like it refined his character, it taught him, it put him into his purpose, and God made provisions for him, not only in the midst of the darkness or in the suffering, but once all of that was finished, he got the ultimate elevation that only God could create. But the key to that is not to get upset about where you are. Just keep worshiping, just keep praising, just keep thanking God for whatever small rewards that he gives you in the process. No, it might not be what you like or in the form that you want it to be, but it's something. And understand if God has given it to you, then that is your provision, that is your prosperity. Just be thankful for it. And understand that when you do, you elevate and you move to the next level because you are getting spiritual maturity like we talked about in the first verse, right? All right, guys. So I definitely hope that made sense. Obviously, none of us like suffering. It can definitely be a hard message to hear. And even in the midst of your suffering, you still might be looking at me like I'm absolutely nuts and telling me that you don't want to glory in anything. But if you are suffering now and you are going through something right now and you are letting your mind get the best of you, then I will ask you this. Where is that getting you? So you might as well try what I'm telling you to do and see if that gives you a new and better path. Because trying it the old way might not be getting you anywhere. Being angry and upset and having a negative mindset all the time isn't getting you anywhere. So therefore, why don't we go ahead and do a new thing and go ahead and trust God and praise him in the midst of the hardship and allow him to spiritually mature us, knowing that we will be elevated to a different level and trusting that will happen in the right time. It took Joseph a very long time. He was in 2 years after the cupbearer was set free. That's not to mention the time he spent as a slave and the time in prison that he spent before that he even met the cupbearer. This was some years. It wasn't weeks. It wasn't days. He had to remain faithful for a long time. But the ultimate reward was overnight changing of that. And that is only something that God could orchestrate if you allow it. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to follow me on social media and also be sure to visit my website and my YouTube channel. If you stay tuned after the show, I will have all that information displayed so you can connect with me in between shows. And I definitely hope that I will see you guys next week. Bye, y'all.
I love getting up close and personal, and if you want to connect with me and stay updated and get more amazing content, then feel free to follow me on social media. You can follow me on Instagram, where I post additional content as well as stories. Or if you don't have an Instagram, then you can also like my Facebook page, where I also post additional content. If you enjoyed my show and want to donate into my ministry, you can do that at paypal.me/sophisticatedmom on any mobile device or computer. Not ready for the show to end? It doesn't have to. You can head over to my site where you can read hundreds of articles. And also you can feel free to shop my store where I have all of my products for sale. And last but not least, for even more video content, feel free to visit my YouTube channel where I talk about a wide array of content. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and until next time, stay blessed.